We're on project 3, Identity Package. The name sounds a little ominous, but it merely is the term that's used for the logo of a company and defines the way that the company is presented. It's the stationery, their letterheads, their envelopes, what colors they are going to be using, what kind of typefaces they're going to be using, so that everything is consistent throughout their business model, from the advertising on through their corporate communications. You're going to develop a custom logo piece that's based on an object that was in a photograph. To do this, you're going to create a gradient mesh to get realistic color blends. You'll be turning type to outlines so that you can treat it as a finished logo type, and you'll be able to manipulate letter shapes very easily that way. You will use layers to manage your artwork. You'll also be creating multiple artboards. Up to this point, we've only been using a single artboard. We're going to be making multiple artboards for this, and we're going to build different logo versions so that we'll be able to meet specific output requirements. I'm not going to require printing because obviously there's no way to turn the printing into me, so we will discuss that, but we will terminate the lesson prior to printing the proofs. So we are in our imaginary advertising agency. We have a client rebranding a local cafe, and she would like to have a new logo for the company and design the stationery to go along with it. Real world situation. Logos are extremely important. Logos need to be able to be scaled. So we can't take and put something together in Photoshop, even though it would look fantastic and be absolutely gorgeous. A logo needs to be portable. It needs to be able to be scaled from something that may go on the side of a pin all the way up to a full-scale billboard. And if you try to take something that you've done in Photoshop, that maximum is, say, a 3 by 5 image, you cannot blow that up without having pixelization. Sure, there are things you can do to minimize it, but it's going to pixel. It's not going to be a clean image. It's not usable. It needs to be something that's going to be able to be transposed onto t-shirts and a myriad of other uses that a piece of art put together in Photoshop just won't work on. We're going to need to also turn this into a single color version, a two color version. Remember, black is always considered one color because that's cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So a one color version may be something that's going to be printed in yellow, or it might be something that's printed solid black. It needs to be able to be converted to whatever color needs to be done. A two color version is generally black and another color, or it could be two different colors. It doesn't matter, but you have to use spot colors. You can't use the cyan, magenta, yellow, and black blends. You're going to use spot colors for those kind of prints. And then there will be a four color version that would be considered as a full color version. We're going to be working on creating those different versions. We'll start off by creating the first image in full color. We have a sketch that the client has given us of what she would like the logo to resemble, and so we will be working with that sketch in mind. To achieve this, we will use the pen tool to trace the image of the lemon. We will create a gradient mesh to make that lemon look as close to the photograph as we possibly can. We will add object highlights to that. We will convert text to outlines so we can manipulate those shapes, and we're going to apply spot colors. So we've got a lot to do. Stage 1, working with gradient meshes. There are several important points to keep in mind when you design a logo. First of all, logos need to be scalable. As I said earlier, the company might want to place its logo on something very small, or it may want to go on the side of a building. It got to be completely scalable. Line art is much better to use because it is a vector graphic, which is what we are creating in Illustrator, That can be scaled as small or as large as you need. It will not lose quality. Photographs, images that you create in Photoshop are raster image. They cannot be enlarged without losing quality. So we're going to take a photograph, which is a raster image, and we're going to turn it into a vector graphic to make it completely scalable. Remember that we always have to do more than one version of a logo because different kinds of output require different formats, and some jobs require special options saved in a file like 4-color, 2-color, single color. Since we're working with a new logo, the one has to have the realistic color, and we have a number of tools that are very well suited for creating a lifelike illustration. We're going to work from a photograph to create the vector base. I know in the book it says apple, but it's a lemon that will be part of your client's logo. You will start with the full color version, then you're going to work from there to create the other variations that are part of a typical logo package. Make sure that you have your cafe file downloaded from the Student Files webpage. Expand the zip archive in your folder. You're going to put that in your Works in Progress folder. That's going to have the files that we will need to complete this project. Make sure that's saved, but we're going to start with a new file. We will want our profile to be for print. We're just going to use a standard letter. Go ahead and change that to inches so that we're quite comfortable with it. And our color mode is CMYK because we're in print, and our raster effects need to be high. Now remember, our CMY gamut is much smaller than RGB. We have fewer colors that we can work from, so we want to have this in CMYK because we would otherwise get a color shift using RGB. So at this point, let's name this Cafe Logo and then say OK. Next, you're going to place the lemon, just like we've done before. You're going to be tracing it. It's going to be a template layer. So let's place to the correct file. Make sure you check a template, and it isn't going to matter if you get it centered on the board or not. It's not as important on this lesson. Do go into your layers panel, get your options, and do not dim this. Turn that off. We want to be able to see the brilliant colors because we're going to be sampling those. Make sure you have this file saved in your Works in Project folder. And then we'll proceed. We're going to work with a gradient mesh. It's a special type of a fill. Each point in the mesh can have a different color value. They don't have to. Areas between those mesh lines become gradients of the surrounding points, and connecting lines between mesh points control the shape of the related gradient. So you can push and pull these mesh points if you need to. You can add mesh points. Double-click layer 1, name it Lemon, and hit Return. Using the pen tool with a 1-point black stroke and no fill, that's important right now. So get your pen tool. We're going to use no fill. Oops, sorry, hit the wrong thing. No fill, and we're going to make this a 2-point line. Zoom into your lemon so that you get a good look at it. Maybe that's a little too far. But you're going to start creating the outline. Remember, you want to keep as few points as you can and still achieve the roundness that you're looking for. But we always strive to have as simple of a line as we possibly can. And you can go back in and tweak this if you want. And don't feel bad if you have to start over a couple of times. It's perfectly fine. But remember, if you can always go back in and tweak your lines. Nothing wrong with doing that. Do you have to have every single bump in there? No. There. Pick up your selection tool, select that outside shape, and with your eyedropper tool, you're going to pick up and fill that with one of the medium yellow colors, just so that it's nice and easy to see. Let's find my eyedropper tool and select the fill color to make that active and pick up a nice medium yellow in there. There's that. Now go to Object, Create Gradient Mesh. You'll get the dialog box. We want to set this value so that there are 8 rows and 7 columns. Make sure that the appearance is flat. If you select flat, this is just so that you know how the fill is going to be. If you select to center, what's going to happen is that your fill is going to be white in the center and yellow around the outside. To edge means it's just this gradient, nice yellow gradient going out. We want the entire thing filled, so make sure you have flat. Don't worry about highlight. The default will be 100%, and just say okay. I'm just going to tweak a little bit. Don't mind me. But the first thing that you just might notice is the fact that your outline disappeared. A gradient mesh cannot hold an outline.